We've all felt it, that moment where everything just slows down. You were moving, building, chasing the goal, and then suddenly, nothing. You stall out, you stop responding, you stop deciding, you stop pushing. And it doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it shows up quietly. You're still working technically, still showing up, still saying the right things, but deep down, you know you've hit a wall. That's the pause. Recognizing the pause isn't always easy because it disguises itself well. It shows up in procrastination, in the 100 little tasks you choose instead of the one that matters. It hides in, I need to think about it, or now's not the right time. It sneaks in when you start redoing things you've already done because reworking is easier than restarting. It convinces you that being busy is the same thing as being productive. It lies, it numbs, it creates false comfort. And the longer you sit in it, the more it justifies its presence. But here's what's true. Pausing doesn't mean you've failed. It doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're human. Every ambitious person, every high performer, every bold thinker, every single one of them has experienced the pause. The problem isn't that the pause shows up. The problem is when you let it unpack and stay. And if you can't see it, you can't move through it. That's why the first step is awareness. You have to know the signs in yourself. Maybe your energy's dropped and you're dragging through the day. Maybe you've lost your creative edge. Maybe you're avoiding decisions you'd normally make in minutes. Maybe your goals feel heavy instead of exciting. That's not laziness, that's not burnout, that's the pause trying to settle in. So stop pretending you don't feel it. Stop trying to outwork it or ignore it. Acknowledge it. Look it in the face, that discomfort you're feeling. That edge that's gone, that's your mind asking for attention. Not to stop, not to quit, but to reset. The pause doesn't mean give up. It means wake up. Something is misaligned, and you have to be willing to ask, what am I resisting? What am I afraid of? What have I stopped believing about myself? Most people never stop long enough to ask that. They just coast, go through the motions. Weeks turn into months, progress slows, results stall. But if you want something bigger, if you're building something that actually matters, then you have to be honest when the momentum dies. You can't fake forward. You can't hustle your way out of misalignment. Recognize the pause because that's where your power is. The pause is actually a gift if you're bold enough to confront it. It's a mirror. It shows you the areas where you're stuck, scared, disconnected. And that's the good news, because once you see it, you can do something about it. But don't try to skip this part. Don't rush to fix it before you understand it. Sit in the awareness long enough to get clear, not forever, just long enough to identify the root. Are you hesitating because you don't know what to do, or because you're afraid it might not work? Are you holding back because it's not the right strategy, or because you're not sure you're the right person? These questions matter, and you'll only get the answers if you're willing to stop lying to yourself. Pretending you're fine when you're not is what keeps you paused. Telling the truth is what sets you free. So here's the truth. You're not lost. You're not lazy. You haven't run out of time. You've hit a pause. That's it, and you get to decide what happens next. You get to choose whether you stay here or whether you rise. But you can't rise until you recognize it, until you stop blaming circumstances and start owning decisions. Until you stop waiting for the perfect moment and start making the next move. Recognize the pause, call it what it is, no shame, no guilt, just honesty, because from that place you can build real momentum again. You can reconnect to the vision. You can rebuild trust with yourself. You can go back to making bold moves, but this time with clarity. You're not stuck. You're in the space between your last breakthrough and your next one. In that space, it's powerful if you know how to use it, so don't fear the pause, don't avoid it, recognize it, honor it, and then, when you're ready, decide you're done with it. That's when the real shift begins. When you find yourself stuck, when things feel off, slow, or heavy, it's easy to assume the surface level reasons are the cause. I'm just tired. There's too much going on. I'll get back on track soon. But those are just symptoms. If you want real progress, if you want to move forward with power and clarity, you have to go deeper. You have to stop treating the symptoms and start identifying the root cause, because there is always a root. There's always something underneath the resistance, underneath the delay, underneath the fear, and until you get clear on what that is, you'll keep spinning, you'll keep going in circles. You'll keep wondering why the motivation's gone, why the vision feels fuzzy, why nothing is clicking the way it used to. That's not a time management issue, that's not a strategy problem, that's a self-awareness gap. To close that gap, you have to ask hard questions and actually be willing to answer them, not the polished answers, not the ones you'd give in a meeting or tell your coach, the real answers, the ones that sting a little when you say them out loud. Because that sting, that's where the growth lives. Start here. What are you actually avoiding? Don't gloss over that question. Sit with it. Are you avoiding making a decision because it would require you to let go of something safe? Are you avoiding putting yourself out there because if it doesn't work, it'll confirm the voice in your head that says you're not good enough? Are you avoiding asking for help because it would mean admitting you don't have it all together? Avoidance is one of the clearest signs that there's something deeper going on, and it's usually tied to fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of success even. Yes, fear of success is real because success changes things. It demands more of you, it exposes you, and for a lot of people, that's more terrifying than failure. So you stay stuck in the middle, not failing, not winning, just paused, not because you're lazy or unmotivated, but because the risk of moving forward feels heavier than the cost of staying still. And until you name that fear, it owns you. Once you name it, you can move through it. Here's another question. Are you clear on what you really want? It's shocking how many high performers lose clarity. They get so caught up in tasks, in goals, in expectations that they forget why they started. They're chasing outcomes they don't even want anymore, or worse, they've never stopped long enough to define what they actually want, so they're chasing what looks impressive to other people. When you're unclear, everything feels harder, decision-making is slower, progress is inconsistent, doubt creeps in, so if you feel stuck, check your clarity, not just on the what, but on the why. What are you building, and who are you building it for? If the answer doesn't ignite something in you, it's not alignment, it's obligation, and obligation can get things done, but it won't get you to greatness. Vision will. One more angle to explore. Are you trying to do too much alone? There's a difference between being capable and being isolated. You can be strong, smart, and driven, and still be weighed down by the belief that you have to carry it all, that asking for help is weakness. That delegating means you're not in control. That vulnerability is unprofessional, but those beliefs are costing you. They're burning you out. They're keeping you small. They're keeping you distracted from what only you can do, because you're stuck doing what anyone can do. So if you're overwhelmed, overextended, or over it, ask yourself, is the root cause the workload, or is it the belief that no one else can handle it, that if you let go, something will break, that you have to prove yourself over and over? Because those beliefs, they're not facts, they're decisions, and they can be changed. Here's the truth. If you want to get unstuck, you have to be honest, not casually honest, radically honest. You have to strip away the excuses and the noise and get to the real issue. You have to go internal before you try to fix the external. Because when you know what the root is, fear, disconnection, confusion, pride, you can finally address it. You can challenge it. You can take action with clarity instead of chaos. But until then, you're just rearranging the surface, hoping something will shift. Change doesn't happen by force, it happens through alignment, and alignment only happens when you're brave enough to look at what's really going on. So don't settle for the easy answers. Dig, be curious, get uncomfortable, and trust that the clarity you find will be the exact thing that propels you forward. When you identify the root cause, you take back control. You stop reacting, you start responding with intention, with power, and with the freedom to actually move again. There's a point in every journey, every business, every career, every personal pursuit where the original energy fades. The newness wears off, the winds stop coming as fast, the setbacks feel heavier, and the excitement that once pulled you out of bed now feels like a distant memory. That's when most people drift. They don't quit outright, but they start operating on autopilot. They start settling. They stop dreaming at the level they once did, not because they don't care, but because they've disconnected from the vision. And this is where the real work begins, because it's not enough to start strong. Anyone can start strong, anyone can get fired up at the beginning, but what separates those who actually build something extraordinary from those who just cycle through ideas is this: they recommit again and again. They come back to the vision, not once, but daily. They remind themselves why they started. They don't wait to feel inspired. They choose to stay connected to what matters. Recommitting to the vision doesn't mean romanticizing the dream. It means remembering the reason you put yourself in the game in the first place. It means anchoring back into the purpose behind the pressure. It's about reconnecting to that version of you who believed it was possible, even when today feels messy, uncertain, or overwhelming. Because that version of you still exists, they're just buried under the weight of deadlines, pressure, fatigue, and comparison. But they haven't left, you've just stopped listening, and now it's time to change that. Recommitting to the vision starts with space. You cannot reconnect to something if you never slow down long enough to reflect. You have to stop the noise, step out of the grind, not forever, but for long enough to ask, what am I building? Why does it matter? Who am I doing this for? And if you can't answer those questions clearly, don't panic. That's not failure, that's an invitation. Clarity isn't something you find once and hold on to forever. It evolves, it deepens, and if you've been growing, your vision should evolve too. But you won't see that if you never pause long enough to check in with it. So ask yourself, is the vision you're chasing still aligned with who you are and what you value? Or are you running after something that once mattered, but doesn't anymore? There's no shame in pivoting, there's only danger in pretending, and sometimes recommitting to the vision means rewriting parts of it. Not abandoning the goal, but refining the path, clarifying what success really means to you. Because if you're not emotionally connected to the outcome, you'll always feel stuck in the process. Recommitment also requires ownership. You can't fully reconnect to your vision if you're still blaming everything outside of you for why it's not happening. Yes, life throws curveballs, timing isn't always perfect, but at some point you have to stop pointing fingers and start taking responsibility. Not in a shameful way, in an empowering one. Your vision isn't anyone else's job to protect, it's yours, and that means showing up for it even when it's hard, even when it's slow, even when you're doubting yourself. Because that's what real commitment looks like. It's not loud, it's not flashy, it's consistent, it's grounded, it's deeply personal. You don't recommit once, you recommit every day you feel like giving up. You recommit every time you get knocked down and decide to stand back up. You recommit when the numbers aren't there, when the team feels scattered, when the outcome is uncertain. You choose to stay connected, not because it's easy, but because it's who you are. And here's the best part. The moment you reconnect to your vision, your energy changes, your decisions become clearer. The small, daily tasks stop feeling like chores and start feeling like steps. You stop focusing on what's not working and start moving toward what could work. Because vision isn't just a future goal, it's fuel. It's what keeps you going when strategy isn't enough. It's what guides your priorities, your standards, your resilience. Without vision, you burn out. With vision, you rise. So if you're feeling stuck, scattered, tired, or off track, don't throw everything away. Don't rush to change directions. Start by coming back to your vision. Rewrite it if you need to. Make it bolder, make it clearer, make it personal, and then recommit. Not with a big speech, not with a dramatic gesture, just with action, with one focused step, then another and another. You don't need a new plan. You need a new level of alignment. The vision hasn't left you. You've just forgotten how powerful it is. Now's the time to remember and move forward from that place with clarity, with intention, with fire. When you feel stuck, overwhelmed, or unmotivated, it's easy to think you need some massive change to get back on track, a breakthrough, a big win, a wave of motivation, that perfect idea or the perfect time. But that's not how real momentum works. You don't wait for motivation to move, you move, and motivation shows up after. The key isn't doing more, it's doing something small now. You take micro actions. Micro actions are tiny, intentional steps that chip away at resistance and rebuild your momentum. They are simple, often unimpressive, and incredibly effective. They're what turn procrastination into progress. Not because they solve everything at once, but because they get you moving. And movement is everything. When you take a micro action, you're telling your brain, I'm not stuck, I'm not frozen, I'm in control. This matters more than you think. Because when you're overwhelmed, it's usually not the work that's heavy, it's the emotion around the work. It's the story you're telling yourself that it's too big, too complex, too much, that you don't have time or energy. So you wait, you hesitate, you stall, and the longer you wait, the heavier it feels. But here's the truth, you don't need to fix the whole thing today. You don't need to have it all figured out, you just need to move. Just a little, just enough to break the inertia, send the email, schedule the call, write the first paragraph, open the document, set the timer for 10 minutes, that's a micro action. It doesn't change everything, but it changes something, your state. Your mindset, your direction, and that's all you need right now. The power of micro actions is that they build trust with yourself. Every time you take one, you prove you can follow through, and when you follow through, even on the smallest thing, you begin to feel capable again. You rebuild self-trust brick by brick, and let's be honest, most people don't take action because they think it won't be enough. They wait until they can go all in. They want the perfect plan, the perfect mood, the perfect energy. And while they wait for all the stars to align, time passes, confidence fades, frustration builds, but the people who win, the ones who actually create progress and results, they don't wait for the right moment. They create movement by starting small, because here's the secret. Small steps create big shifts, not right away, not in some magical overnight way, but gradually, consistently, with momentum that compounds. One micro action leads to another, and soon you're not stuck anymore. You're in motion, and motion is where confidence lives. It's where clarity lives. It's where your best ideas start flowing again. If you've ever worked out after weeks of skipping the gym, you know how this works. That first day back, it's not your best workout, but you leave feeling better, stronger, not because of the result, but because you showed up. That's what micro actions do. They get you back in the game fast. So if you're overwhelmed by your to-do list, pick one thing, not 10, just one, and do it, then move on. If you're avoiding a big decision, take the first step toward clarity. Book the meeting, ask the question, write down what you do know. If you're in a creative block, don't wait for inspiration. Start creating. One sentence, one sketch, one draft, that's enough to open the floodgates. There's a myth that big success comes from big moves, but the truth, big success comes from mastering the small ones, the daily habits. The invisible wins, the boring consistency, that's the foundation, that's the edge, and if you feel like your goals are too far away, too complex, too impossible, good, that means they're worthy of you. But don't try to leap there. Walk, step, inch, take micro actions over and over again until you look up and realize you're not where you started. You're closer, stronger, more focused, more certain, and most importantly, you're moving. You don't need to be fast, you need to be consistent. You don't need to be brilliant, you need to be committed. You don't need to do everything, you need to do something today, now, so take the step. Whatever it is, however small it feels, that is how momentum begins. That is how you push past the pause. Don't underestimate the power of doing just one thing. One action can change the entire trajectory of your day. One decision can wake up your energy. One step can reignite your belief. You don't have to feel ready. You don't have to feel inspired. You just have to move. Failure has a way of stopping people cold. One misstep, one missed goal, one plan that didn't work, and suddenly it's like everything is in question. You start doubting your abilities, your decisions, your vision. You shrink, you stall, you retreat. And if you're not careful, you let that failure redefine you, but it doesn't have to, because failure in and of itself is neutral. It's feedback, it's direction, it's a teacher. What makes it heavy is the meaning you attach to it. If you want to grow, if you want to lead, if you want to do something bold and real, you have to redefine what failure means to you, because the old definition, the one that says failure is the opposite of success, is outdated. It's broken, it keeps you small, it keeps you afraid, it makes you avoid risk, hide your voice, and play it safe, and playing it safe doesn't build anything worth being proud of, so let's redefine it. Failure is not the end, it's data, it's experience, it's progress in disguise, it's proof that you're trying, that you're stretching, that you're in motion, because the only people who don't fail are the ones who aren't doing anything challenging. And you weren't meant to play small. When you see failure for what it actually is, you stop fearing it. And when you stop fearing it, you stop avoiding action. That's the shift. That's where your momentum comes back. Because the truth is, every successful person you admire has failed more times than most people have even tried. The difference is, they didn't stop. They didn't let the failure become their identity. They took the lesson, made the adjustment, and kept moving. You have to do the same, and no, it's not easy, it's uncomfortable, it stings, it challenges your ego, but that discomfort is useful. It reveals what matters to you. It sharpens your focus, it humbles you in the best way, because if everything always went according to plan, you'd never grow, you'd never develop resilience, you'd never learn what you're really capable of. But when you fail, and decide to keep going, you become unshakable. You stop being defined by outcomes and start being defined by consistency. That's power. That's leadership. That's how you build something that lasts. So if you've failed recently, or feel like you're in the middle of one, pause and reframe it. Ask yourself, what did I learn? What would I do differently next time? What did this reveal about my strategy, my preparation, or my mindset? Then get back up, not with shame, not with hesitation, with clarity, with a better plan, with deeper focus, because forward is the only direction. Redefining failure also means letting go of perfection. Perfection is the enemy of progress. It keeps you obsessing over how something looks instead of how it works. It keeps you polishing things that should be shipped. It makes you delay decisions that should already be made. And underneath that perfectionism, fear of failure, fear of being judged, fear of not being good enough. But here's what's real. You don't get better by waiting. You get better by doing. You get better by releasing, adjusting, and trying again. You don't build mastery in theory. You build it in motion. Let yourself mess up. Let yourself launch something before it's ready. Let yourself risk getting it wrong, because the only thing worse than failing is standing still out of fear. That's how dreams die, not with a bang, but with hesitation. So make the call, post the content, pitch the idea, share the product, have the conversation. Whatever it is you've been holding back on, do it. Not because it's perfect, but because it matters. And if it doesn't land the way you hoped, good. You just got better. You just learned something you wouldn't have learned sitting on the sidelines. And when people see you bounce back from failure with integrity and focus, it builds trust. It shows that you're in this for the long game, that you're not just here to win when it's easy, but to lead, to evolve, to keep moving no matter what. Failure only becomes final if you stop, if you let it define you. If you use it as proof that you're not cut out for what you really want, but if you use it as fuel if you keep moving, you can turn any setback into a setup for your next level. This is how you push past the pause. Not by being flawless, not by getting it right every time, but by refusing to let failure silence your momentum, by seeing it clearly, learning from it quickly, and taking the next step boldly, because you're not here to avoid failure. You're here to grow through it, and that growth, that resilience, that commitment to keep going, that's where real success lies.